Morning, Hilton students. We've got a lot of people joining. We're just going to give it a couple minutes until everyone has a chance to log in. All righty. We're up to 70 people. Alrighty, I think we're going to get started. Welcome, Hilton students. If we have more join in, that will be great. We are recording today's session. You will not be able to see yourselves like you would on a typical Zoom. This is a webinar. So the only people you'll be able to see are the people you're seeing right now. These are administrators and interns from our district who are here to talk with you today and answer some questions. So we're going to take a minute and go around and introduce ourselves. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit about how this webinar will work. My name is Ms. Sabato. I am the Director of Reporting and Compliance. Some of you may remember me as middle school principal at Merton Williams or Village Elementary principal prior to that. Dr. Miller?
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Miller. I'm the Director of Technology, Data, and Program Evaluation for our district.
Education and athletics for our school district. Go Cadets.
Welcome everyone. My name is Mrs. Mayer and I'm the assistant principal at Merton Williams Middle School.
Good morning everyone. My name is Ms. Cusey and I am the special education specialist.
Good morning. My name is Ms. New and I am the UPK teacher at Quest Elementary.
Welcome everyone. I'm Kirk Ish and I'm the principal at Northwood Elementary.
Hi everyone, I'm Mrs. Spillman. I'm the Director of Learning and Staff Development.
Good morning, Mrs. Schneider, Assistant Principal at the high school.
Good morning everybody, I'm Mr. Ambrose. I'm an Instructional Technology Specialist for the district.
Hi everyone, I'm Mrs. Salajas. I'm the new Assistant Principal at the high school.
Hello everybody and good morning. My name is Mr. Legault. I'm one of 3 high school assistant principals.
Morning, Hilton students. I'm Mrs. Byrne. I am the assistant principal at Northwood.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mr. Ziobrowski, and I am the Director of Food Service.
Good morning. I am Dr. Green, the high school principal.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mr. D'Amico, the principal at Merton Williams Middle School.
All righty. Welcome, students. We have almost just over 80 of you here with us today. I'll try to monitor the attendee room if you have a really dire question and we have time, but I have a feeling we're not going to. Thank you to all of you who submitted questions ahead of time. We're going to spend about 45 minutes together this morning answering some of your questions, and I think you'll find that a lot of the questions that other students asked will probably address some of the things you're thinking about as well. So we're going to kick it off, and to get started, I'm going to hand it off to the high school. We have a couple questions about will the school be in school and online learning classes, will they be exactly the same? And what about the starting and ending times for both online and in school? What's all that going to look like? Dr. Green or one of the APs?
The start and end time for the school day will be the same whether you are a hybrid student attending in person, a hybrid student on your day learnings at home, or a 100% remote learning student. Same school hours. Unlike the springtime, you will be required to participate following your bell schedule when at home. So you still need to get up early and follow that daily bell schedule. The classes are obviously going to be looking different whether you're in person or at home. The teachers that are teaching the classes will be differentiating to plan lessons accordingly. It could be looking like where they do some things in person and assign other things to be done at home independently, and also could be done at home synchronously using Zoom. That's going to be at the teacher discretion depending upon their goals for the lesson.
Thank you. Because this is a Hilton High School question, I'm pretty sure middle school students and elementary students have similar questions. Mr. D'Amico and Mr. Ashton, will you please address this for 7-8 and for K6?
Absolutely. I can do it really quickly because what Dr. Green said about the high school is pretty much the same at Merton Williams. You're going to follow your bell schedule, whether you are in school or on a remote day or fully remote. And Hilton teachers will be teaching you, and you will be learning the same skills and content. You just will be learning it in a slightly different way if you're the days that you're at home, or if you're remotely all the time, and then the days that you're in school.
Thank you.
Yes, and for the elementary, very similar to what was just said. Again, you will follow the schedule that you normally would when you were in school, the same hours, whether you're on your days that you're in school or when you're at home distance learning.
Great, thank you. We have a question about attendance. This question is, if I'm going to miss school because I have a cold or strep throat, can I just switch to remote learning until I get back to school? Anyone want to take that?
I would love to. That's a great question.
Right.
It's one that's been asked by a lot of people, but no, it's not going to work like that because we are dedicating teachers 100% to teach classes that are for the remote learners. And so if you are in a 100% remote learning class, you're only going to be with other 100% remote learning students, and the teacher will be able to fully devote their time to you as a 100% remote learning student. Those are going to run separately but concurrently with classes that are in hybrid format. So just like in the past, if you are absent from your class, you need to be in touch with your teacher and be responsible for that missed work. It would be the same for whether you are a hybrid student and you miss an in-person day of school versus if you are a hybrid student that misses an at-home day of learning.
Thank you very much. This next series of questions has to do with at elementary specials and at secondary electives. I'm going to hit up some different people. So I'm going to ask Mr. Jeritzi to start, and then maybe Mrs. Mayer, you can chime in at the middle level, and then maybe Miss New, if you can chime in for elementary. So these questions have to do with physical education, art, music class, band, and then the concept of indoors versus outdoors for some of these classes. Mr. Jeritzi, can you talk to us a little bit about physical education specifically, please?
Sure. So our teachers have been working diligently all summer, and the goal is really to try to get back together with all of you, both remotely and in person. And there'll be more, obviously, distancing and masking and those types of things. So we'll be focusing more on individual types of skills. We'll be focusing more on health-related fitness. Our goal, quite honestly, will be to get us, while we're in person, outside as much as we possibly can. We've got the fresh air, we've got the space to be able to do more things. And as we progress and as we get our systems in place, we'll be able to utilize different types of equipment with cleaning. So phys ed will be focused on lifetime activities, will be focused on health-related fitness while you're in person. You heard Dr. Green say the word synchronistic. So you'll be working with our teachers both synchronous and asynchronous, meaning you'll be either physically in person with them if you're a hybrid learner, or you'll be remote with them. There'll be times when you're at home that you'll be live on Zoom or synchronous with the teachers. There'll be time where you'll be asynchronous, meaning you'll have different instructional expectations that you're taking care of, but the teachers will be directly working with you. So they're excited, they're planning, they're meeting weekly to be able to meet all of your needs and get us actively engaged in physical education beginning September 11th.
Thank you.
So at Merton Williams, your PE, art, and music teachers are working diligently to work on your plan. In all situations, we will be doing socially distancing and masking. The requirements for PE and music are a little bit more stringent if you are physically moving or if you're playing an instrument or singing. And so the social distance requirements increase. So you'll have to be further apart. And we're working on all the spacing and physical building places where we can make that happen and meet those requirements. As Mr. Jeritzi said, anytime it's possible, we will be outside for PE, but in all three classes, you will still have those same requirements when you're together to be socially distanced and to be masking. It's our goal to provide those to all of our students, and we'll continue to work on those schedules and hopefully have them out to students sometime the first week of September.
Thank you.
And for elementary school, it's very similar to middle school and high school. As much as possible, we will be outside. But again, we will be using the social distancing and masking. When indoors, we will try to use the gym, but at a very, we have to follow protocols in order to make sure that all the children are safe. And in regards to band, the band lessons will be Zoom only on the days that you are remote.
Thank you very much. Mr. Drithy, I left one part off one of those questions. Do all of these responses apply to health as well?
Yes, that is accurate. And I wanted to actually expand a little bit on the phys ed, but yeah, so masking and 6 feet apart are what we're going to be doing and in health. And for physical education, what you'll see is 6 feet when we're doing anaerobic or stationary type activities. So what you might find is when you enter the classroom and maybe we're having that instruction about what it is you're going to do, you'll be masked and 6 feet apart. Any aerobic or really movement type of activity, we're going to be minimally 12 feet apart and masked. So it'll be a learning process for all of us, but that's also the reality of trying to get outside to be able to utilize that space and fresh air. And like Mrs. Mayer said, even when we're in the gymnasium, because we'll have smaller classes, it may look a little bit different. So if you're a Village, Quest, or Northwood student where maybe team teaching or you're always 2 classes together, you may not see that this year. You may see doors shut in the gymnasium. You may see some different things as we try to ensure that we're distanced and we're still able to be physically engaged.
Thank you very much. This next series of questions is for Dr. Miller and Mr. Ambrose. So a series of questions about Chromebooks. I'll try to summarize. Questions about if I don't currently have a Chromebook because I'm K4, what's up with that? If I am a student in 5th or 9th, when will I get that Chromebook? Exactly how will that look, especially if I'm not starting on September 11th or I'm going to be home remotely the whole time? What about the concept of my Chromebook breaks or I need help or my internet and things aren't working? And finally, what's the troubleshooting and support going to look like for me or my family should we be struggling with apps or programs on our Chromebooks?
I'll start with this one, Tony, and then you can fill in if there's anything from your end on this. So Chromebooks, I'm going to start with the 5th and 9th graders. So your building principal will be sending out a message for you to pick up your Chromebook assigned to you in the first week of September. So if that communication hasn't already gone out, it will be coming out soon for you. It will have a pickup date and times for you to come pick those up, and that will be your device. The K4 students that are hybrid model, so you're going to be coming in person. As of right now, the Chromebooks that we had for you are on back order and stuck. So we do not have those. So right now you are going to be working with paper-based things that your teachers are preparing to be using with you. Our remote students, so the K4 remote students, you will be receiving a Chromebook since you are fully remote. That information will be communicated to you shortly as well as to when you can pick up that device. So be on the lookout for communication from the buildings and the district regarding pickup for the devices. In terms of broken devices, if you need support or you have a broken device and you are working remotely on those days, then School Dude, which is our ticketing system, we have opened up our ticketing system that we use with adults. We have now opened it up for our students to be able to put in a ticket. So with your GA account, you're now going to be able to put in a support ticket that will go to our tech team, and then they will respond to you to support you with what your needs are. Information on how to do that will be coming to you as the school year comes closer. The district, and I'm going to say you can talk to your parents as well at home, the district website technology page does have some information for parents and some troubleshooting tips to try first. If you're home, I would recommend checking those out first before contacting a tech and putting a School Dude ticket in. Tony, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add from your perspective.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that a couple things, that with the expansion of technology access comes an expansion of access to us. So it might not look the same, obviously, as if like, oh, I can't get this particular app to work, or I'm having trouble figuring this out. You might not be able to just go to the library or go to a computer lab in your respective school to come see one of us to just ask a question. But in that same respect, there is more access to us because we're working on trying to find ways that there can be remote access, and by utilizing technology, whether that looks like possibly like a chat option that you can come directly to us, whether that be in video or just like typing and messaging, or it will also look like with what Dr. Miller was talking about with those school duty requests. So those school duty requests can be if the hardware technology isn't working, or if you just need to know something about, you know, if you're working on like a Google Slides presentation or anything like that, and you need to ask how you do something, you would also be able to ask that through School Dude. But in addition to that, we're also taking a more proactive approach with your teachers this year, and it might not necessarily, hopefully you won't be in as many situations where you ask the teacher something or you need to know how to do something and then they would send you to us. We're expanding the way in which information is given to them and also given directly to you as far as practices using a lot of those educational apps that you're going to be using. So hopefully you won't run into that, but you'll be, you yourself and the teachers will also have a lot more training at the beginning of the year in terms of using all that those apps and educational tools have to offer.
Thank you.
Ms. Sabato, do we hit everything on that or do we miss any parts?
You guys hit it and a little extra, so we'd probably call that a grand slam if we were playing baseball. All righty, we are going to move on to the concepts of social emotional learning and support for students around the ideas of making sure we're doing okay, if we need counseling and things like that, if we need support while we're at home. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about friendships and things like that, because there are a lot of students who are fully remote who are concerned about connecting with other students or their teachers, and there are students who are just worried in general being with half their population or not being in school every day. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Spillman if you can tell us a little bit about what social emotional learning will look like. That's sort of a new term to some students in Hilton. And Ms. New, after that, can you please talk a little bit about how we're going to ensure that elementary kids get to know each other and get to form relationships and friendships with both each other and their teachers?
Sure. So for social emotional learning, we are going to be having your teachers work with you on Zoom on Wednesday mornings for maybe 45 minutes to an hour to really talk about specific SEL skills. Now, what does that mean? It might mean talking about strategies to calm down when you're upset. It might talk about, for our younger kids, identifying emotions and understanding and having words to share how we're feeling. For the older kids at secondary, it might mean looking at skills like decision making and understanding the idea of integrity and doing the right thing when no one is looking and strategies for that. So in terms of SEL, so that's going to be the once a week lesson. But these are things we talk about all the time. And as you build your community, which is going to be really different this year because we're socially distanced, that's going to play a role. So when you get into your classrooms, if you are in the in-person model, you're still going to probably participate in those getting to know you activities, community building. They're just not going to be ones that where we're touching each other. But we definitely know that we want this to be a priority for us. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel at home. We want you to get to know each other. It's just going to be a little different. Mrs. New, do you want to continue with the friendship?
Yeah, and I just like what you said, although it will look a little bit different in the classroom, what's an amazing part of it, it's going to be a smaller class size setting. So you have the opportunity to build stronger bonds with a close-knit community of students. And whether that's in person or it's remote, because I know some of you are concerned about the relationships you could build remotely. You know, even if you're meeting students for the first time remotely, you're able to. And I worked with a wonderful group of students over the summer that had never met each other, and they built wonderful relationships with each other, even just remotely. And, you know, we will make sure that we do our best possible job to ensure that you're comfortable, that you have friendships that are building, you have a strong relationship with your remote teacher or your in school, your live teacher. So if you have concerns, we invite you to make sure to communicate those concerns that you have at any time.
I will also say that for students with concerns that are a little bit more serious, we still have your counselors in all of the buildings. The counselors are available for students, whether they are in person, whether they're during at home remote only, those kinds of things. So they will be available to you.
Thank you very much. This next question, I'm going to ask Mr. Legault to field this kind of for all of us. The questions are, why do we have to wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart? This child says that seems redundant. They also want to know, will there be safe spaces where they can pull up their mask briefly throughout the day to take a breathing break? And if I'm changing classes, how can you assure me that my desk has already been cleaned in just a short 5 minutes?
Sure. So I'll start with the masking and social distancing. As a district, we're just taking a conservative and the safest approach that we can given the guidance and the guidelines from the health department and the state. So while it does seem redundant, we do feel as though it's the right thing to do for our students and our staff. With regard to masking breaks, with regard to pulling up your mask, there will be some masking breaks throughout the day. Those will be standardized. And then, so we'll probably have them building wide and then per the discretion of the teacher. And then also in between each of the classes, along with in between each day, workspaces will be cleaned.
Thank you very much. All right, this next question is for the principals. Mr. Ashton, maybe you can start. We'll follow up with Mr. D'Amico and end with Dr. Green. Questions about same teachers. So will I have the same teacher when I'm in school and out of school if I'm hybrid? Will I have the same teacher if I start remote but then become hybrid or full-time second semester? And will I have classes that are accelerated if I'm not in school, if I'm choosing the remote option? And then for middle and high, are we changing rooms? And maybe even for you too, Mr. Ashton, are they changing rooms?
Well, I'll start with the changing rooms. We are making an effort to not have students change room. So you would be in your classroom with your teacher. And also we would be looking at for the remote option, if you were to return to school, we would, as best we can, try to keep that same teacher with you. We're not 100% sure we would be able to do that, but we're working on that because of the numbers of students that we have. So for social distancing and for hygiene purposes and to keep everybody safe, yes, you'd be in the same classroom while you're in school. You'd have the same teacher, with the exceptions of 5th and 6th grade. Your teachers would switch, as you know, they would switch and come to you. So if you had Mrs. Smith and Mrs. James, they would switch for the content areas that they teach and come to you.
Thank you.
I'll go next. So at the middle school, you will be changing classes. We'll be following a similar schedule that we've followed in the past. A lot of you students at Merton are aware we're going to be following an I and J day schedule. So you'll be going to all 8 of your classes, about roughly 40-minute periods. And so that will be happening. The same amount of passing time, just as it has been in the past. I've talked to some of you about the fact that we won't be using lockers to start the year. But you will be transitioning from one class to the next. The next question was about, there was a question about advanced classes. And then there was a third part. What was that? So I can get it all.
Same teachers if we're hybrid, remote, or
great. So similar to what Dr. Green said, those students who are selecting fully remote, if you are working fully remote for the first semester, and then you would transition back into a hybrid model second semester. Because at the secondary level, classes are, students have individual classes. In most cases, you will keep the same teacher that you had in the beginning of the year because you'll be in a class with students who are all remote. So if you return, you'll likely be in that same class. You'll just be in that class in school. There may be cases where your schedule might get adjusted and you might be put into a specific class, like have a little schedule change depending. But most likely you'll continue with the same schedule, whether you remain remote or if you were to return in hybrid. And then for those 8th graders who are planning to take advanced courses this year and who are scheduled to do so, if you are choosing the fully remote program, as you recall, we could not promise that you would get them. Our goal is to make sure that you are able to get them, and we're actually working on that right now so that there are students who, here's your example, you're in 8th grade, you're scheduled to take algebra or an advanced science course. We're working on those plans right now to hopefully be able to keep those in your schedule.
Thank you.
The only thing I would just add is that, so those classes that are the 100% remote learning, they are going to have a teacher, a Hilton teacher, that is 100% devoted to those students learning remotely. They're not going to have to work with students in person and remotely at the same time. They're going to be able to fully devote their attention to the 100% remote learners. That is why we are having the impact that is limiting the course availability for remote learners. That is a smaller number of courses being available than those who are in the hybrid model.
Thank you very much. This next question has to do with sports, athletics, and extracurricular activities. I think we'll start with Mr. Drizzi and we will go backwards. Dr. Green, then Mr. D'Amico, or Mr. Ashton for an AP if you'd like. Mr. Drizzi?
Yes, for sports, hopefully you've seen, so obviously we have a 7-12 between our modified JV and varsity. At this point, typically our varsity and JV seasons would be beginning next Monday. That's not happening. We're tentatively looking at a September 21 with sports starting, but quite honestly, we will have more information out next week. You may or may not be aware the governor's guidance is what will allow us or not allow us to have sports in our schools. So, and we're going to receive that information next week. We as athletic directors across all of our schools, so you think of Webster and Spencerport and Brockport, we all meet weekly and we're discussing plans. Our goal is to ensure that we have sports for our kids. There'll be more information next week. At this point in time, we really don't know exactly what the sports season will look like in the fall, but we will be communicating that as quickly as we possibly can. We believe it is so important for you to be engaged in our sports program, working with our coaches, and we're looking forward to doing that in a safe manner. Again, our first and foremost is making sure that everyone remains safe. So I would tell you by next Friday, by this time next week, we will have a clear picture of what sports could and would look like when we are back to school in September. Some of the other questions we get is if someone has chosen to be a remote learner, are they eligible for sports? And the answer is absolutely yes. So if you are 100% remote and you're interested in running cross country, playing soccer, playing tennis, whatever sport that is offered at that given time, you are absolutely eligible to do that. So I would encourage you that have questions or need information with your moms and dads, contact our athletic office. But by this week, by this day, next Friday, by this time next Friday, excuse me, we will absolutely have a clear picture of where we're going with sports, especially when we're back in school in September.
Great, Dr. Green?
In addition to athletics, extracurriculars are an extremely important part of the high school learning experience. So all of our extracurricular and intramural activities will be in operation to start the school year in a virtual format. This way, our students that are in a hybrid cohort, as well as students that are in the cohort 4, 100% remote learning, are able to equally participate in those extracurriculars and intramurals. But just like in the past, we have a large number of extracurriculars and intramurals that operate based upon student interest and the ability to secure a teacher advisor. And so as long as we have the teacher that is willing to advise the group in the virtual format and there is the student interest, they will all operate to start the year. as things go on, depending upon how things go, it could be the possibility to make a shift to allow those groups to meet in person. But to start the year, we're going to play it on the safe side.
Thank you. Same for you, Mr. D'Amico?
Nothing to add. That's the same thing that we're planning at Merton Williams. If there are advisors available and a plan to hold those activities remotely and students who want to participate, then we plan to run them.
Great. Mr. Ashton, same for elementary?
Similar, yes, very similar. If we have the teachers available, again, that they would begin the year doing them, distance, but hopefully at some point during the year, we'd be able to bring them together in person.
Great. Thank you very much. The next question, Mrs. Spillman, I'm going to ask you to address, and then you can kick it off to one of the building level leaders if you'd like. Students have questions about, if I'm a remote only student, what does that schedule look like? You say I have to log on, but what is that? And what if I'm hybrid, or we're opening or closing, or I'm sick? How do I find out and get a feel for what my schedule might look like?
Okay, I will start with the hybrid. So if you are in the hybrid, so if, for example, if you're coming on Monday and Thursday, you'll be reporting to school. Then on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're going to be doing your work at home. And what that work will look like is a little bit different depending on the time of year. So for K4 or UPK4, until we get your Chromebooks in, it's going to be on paper. But after that, when our Chromebooks have arrived, we will be able to follow what we expect to follow, which would be, you would have some independent reading, writing, and math, some either typing or handwriting for our younger kids, maybe some fine motor work. You'd also have some what we consider asynchronous instruction and learning activity. So maybe you'll have a video to watch from science and have something, an assignment to do with that. You'll also have asynchronous instruction. For example, maybe ed puzzle to watch from your special area. And on some days, there will be some synchronous live instruction that you can tune into. It might be held by your librarian or the REACH teacher offering some enrichment. On those days, you'd also get your band lesson. If you are in REACH, you'd also do that lesson as well. If you get help from reading teachers, they might be Zooming in with you then. Just like with if you have any TA support or your other special education teachers. So that's really what it's going to look like on the 2 days that you're not in school for the hybrid. For the Wednesday, as I said before, you're going to start off with an SEL Zoom lesson, and that's going to be the same every Wednesday when you get your Chromebooks. And then you're going to have your independent activities to take care of. So that is hybrid. For remote, I'm gonna actually tell you where very clear examples are. Remote, if you go to our district website under the reopening plan and you take a look at remote only option, you'll actually see a sample schedule for elementary, a sample schedule for Merton Williams, and a sample schedule for a high school student. So I would encourage you to check those out, and they outline what those specifics look like. It's going to be very similar to the hybrid schedules, except when the hybrid kids are in school, you're going to be live Zooming with your teachers. So you're going to follow your schedule that you receive, and that one day you're going to be Zooming, and then the other day you're going to have those at-home learning activities to do. Does that make sense, Ms. Sabato?
I think that's perfect, and I think students don't forget the website has a lot of resources. It may look overwhelming, but there are a lot of extra little tabs off to the side that kind of zoom you into exactly what you're asking about. Okay, we have a couple more general district questions, and then I'm going to go very specific. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Ziobrowski. Can you give us a brief understanding of what lunch will look like? Thinking elementary, middle, high school, hybrid learners when they're not in school, and students who are all remote.
Sure. We'll start with K6. So this year we will be delivering breakfast and lunch to the classrooms. So normally where you would get choices to come through the line, you will still pre-order your meal, and we will package your meal together, and we will deliver it safely to the classroom. For middle school and high school, you will still come through the lines like you normally do. The only thing that won't be available this year are any type of salad bar or veggie bar, anything that would have open food containers, like a buffet type of setting. But we will be coming through the lines socially distanced and masked. The offerings at both middle school and high school will continue to be the same as they always have. Everything will be packaged, and for those of you who may be leaving the cafeteria, we will have to-go containers. So we will pack up your food in to-go containers. So if you're walking through the hallway and you happen to encounter somebody who may not be wearing your mask, your food container will be closed and free from any type of contamination. For those of you coming through the line and eating in the cafeterias at the high school and middle school, you'll come through normally like you do. If you've been to Wegmans or any other restaurant recently, you'll see when you walk in, there are floor decals where you stand and you wait in line. Whether it's not to get your food or to come up to the cash register, it's going to be the same procedure at both schools. The cash registers will have plexiglass over them, and we will not be giving change for accounts. So if you come in with a $20 bill and you're paying for lunch, the rest of the money will go on your account. We will not be giving change to decrease any type of contamination with money exchange. So we ask any of your parents to try to use the online accounts, put your money on the online accounts. And then when you go through the lines, cash out, you will go to your seats in the cafeteria, which are socially distanced apart. And right now they're all individual desks at each one of the schools. For the remote meals, we will be offering remote meals from 11:30 to 1:30 every day at the high school. We are trying to make provisions and work with parents who have transportation difficulties. We're doing that on a one-on-one basis. So if there is any type of transportation issue, we are working with the families individually to make sure that we can get food in the hands of the kids.
Thank you very much. All right, this next question is for Ms. QC. We have a question from a student who has resource room, and if you wouldn't mind addressing that as well for students who might have tutorial at the middle or high school. They have this, where do they get extra help for homework and things like that? And will they have that class when they're in school and when they're out of school?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to reassure students who receive resource room support that you will get your full support that's identified on your IEP. While most of it will happen in person in school, there will be adult support provided while you're doing your remote learning, whether it's a special education teacher or a teacher assistant. You'll get more details about the time and who will be providing the support from your teacher once the school year begins.
Thank you very much. Yep. Mr. Terizzi, I am going to ask you a question about transportation. Don't worry, students, we haven't completely lost our minds. Mr. Terizzi has been working closely with Mr. Lamarca, who is our Director of Transportation and all things busing. And Mr. Lamarca couldn't be with us. So Mr. Terizzi, can you please tell us, when will busing begin? And is there someplace I can go to see what it looks like to ride the school bus?
Absolutely. So we actually did with about 16 or 18 different Hilton students from elementary to high school. We did a safety video that will be on our website a week from today, I believe. Correct, Ms. Abedo? The 28th. So the expectations are simple. Obviously, you've heard loud and clear, and I think we know it's about 6 feet, social distancing, and it's about masks being on covering your nose and mouth. Transportation is afforded for each and every one of you, but unfortunately, due to guidance, we can only put 22 kids on each bus that is masked. That's 1 to a seat. And what you'll see is the expectation is you'll sit at the window seat. So if you look at a normal bus and there's 22, there's 11 rows with 2 sides, you can have 22 kids on that bus socially distanced, mask on, sitting, obviously firmly down with your hands down to your side. The keys to remember as you enter the bus in the morning or when you leave school and you enter the bus, you're always going to enter from back to front. What that means is you get on the bus, you're going to walk as far as you can and find the last open seat, and then you'll sit along that window seat. Remember to keep your hands down. Sometimes we tend to walk through and touch the seats. You don't want to do those things. If you're a sibling, so your brother or sister, and obviously, or you live in the same house, you are able to sit together at a seat. So if you and your brother, if you enter the bus in the morning, you two can go back to front and sit together. When you leave the bus, it's the reverse of that. So if I sit in the front of the bus, we're going to leave the bus. So when you get to school in the morning, you're going to exit that bus front to back. The keys will be sort of to pause as you leave that bus, so you continue to keep that social distancing. We've worked very hard. Mr. Lamarca, who's our Director of Transportation, is planning fast and furious to make sure that we can transport each and every one of you to and from school, but do it safe in a safe manner. So keys to remember: social distancing, 6 feet apart, masks on, covering nose and mouth as you are on that bus. All right, so hopefully that answers that.
It does. I'm going to ask some building specific questions. We're going to go pretty quickly on this because I want to be polite with students' time and make sure that we finish before 11 o'clock. So these questions will come kind of quickly. Dr. Green, can the incoming freshmen find their room and locker before school starts?
Yes, we're planning on having students come in on September 2nd to pick up their Chromebook. I have not communicated that information in writing yet because we're still working on the locker aspect of that. You may not know this, but there's significant construction going on at the high school involving our science rooms that has many hallways blocked off and many lockers that are inaccessible at this time. So for sure, you're going to be able to come into the building, but you might not be able to access your locker. We are going to have students be able to use lockers this year, but I will say I am discouraging that use in order to assist with social distancing.
Great, thank you. This next question is for Ms. New and Mrs. Spillman. One of the things I love about being a Quest student is that I get to be part of the IB program. And as we know, all of our students are a part of the IB program at some point. Will I still be able to learn first grade Spanish if I'm remote only? And will I be able to work on all of my IB traits and things that I love so much about Quest?
So I can start. Yes, that would be a part of your learning plan. So as a remote only student, we are still working on how it will look with integrating the Spanish support and traditions that are so familiar for Quest. And the most important thing to communicate is that any school-wide activity that we are able to share virtually, we will be including all remote only students in. So don't worry too much. You are always part of the Quest community, and we will make sure to keep that going for you.
And I would imagine that probably goes for all 5 of our schools. Am I correct? Yeah. Great. We are still a community. Okay, Mrs. Spillman, anything to add about IB?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you another question, Mrs. Spillman.
Sure.
This child, elementary student, is very concerned about their individualized evaluations for reading levels and math levels. What if they're doing really well? Should they get accelerated? How do you do that if they're remote? And what if they're struggling? How are you going to know and give them extra help?
So in remote learning, only learning, the teachers that are assigned to your student, they're going to be doing the same thing that the teachers in person are doing. They're going to be providing reading instruction. They're going to be assessing students on a regular basis. They're going to be responding to those assessments and changing the instructional materials to reflect whatever instructional levels need to be taught. So if a student is doing well with their current guided reading books and the teacher is able to assess that they're accuracy and their comprehension and their fluency is good, they'll move them up to the next level. So that's basically how it's going to work. It's going to be the same thing with math. If you're doing well with your math instruction, we will know it because you're going to be looking at we're going to be looking at the work that you're turning in. We're going to be assessing you just like we are with the other kids.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Ashton, you talk to us about recess, please.
Yes, recess is important. So we will have opportunities for students, especially given, during the school year at Northwood, as long as the weather cooperates, we are outside quite a bit. We will have our playgrounds opened. There will be procedures for using them in terms of making sure that you wash your hands when you come back in so that you're being safe with hygiene. But we will be taking students outside. They will be outside for not only their physical education classes, but also during the day when there's opportunities and when the weather cooperates.
Thank you so much. Mr. D'Amico, when are you handing out the middle school schedules?
You guys ask such good questions. Our goal is, and we've been saying the first week of September. We hope that it's as early in the first week of September as we can. The only reason that we're saying first week and not first day is we want to be sure that we're not, making a promise and then having to change it. So our counselors are working so hard to get that all buttoned up. And for those of you who plan to attend our first round of orientation on the 25th, so next week, we'll be giving some general information. And then by the end of next week, we'll have a solid date for when that next round of virtual orientation would be. And our goal is to have that aligned with being able to give you your schedules. So first week of September, and we're working as fast as we can to get those because we understand that you want those and we want you to have them too. So first week of September.
Hey, Mr. Legault, same thing at the high school?
Right now, we're targeting September 2nd is the date that our schedules would be buttoned up, and I really don't have much to add more than what Mr. D'Amico has already said. Our counselors are also working very hard to basically just ensure that kids get what they requested, who are coming for the hybrid model, and now also trying to manage schedules for students who opted for cohort 4. So a lot of work's being done. Again, we're targeting September 2nd.
Great, thank you so much. Dr. Green, we've got a handful of high school specific questions, probably pretty quick. Can you tell us what the classrooms are gonna look like?
They're not gonna have as much things in them. They're gonna have less desks, less extra things that teachers have brought from home, like beanbag chairs or comfy furniture. Those won't be able to be in there in order to maintain social distancing.
Thank you. Can you tell us what grading will look like, Dr. Green?
Just like it was previously before we engaged in remote learning in the springtime, so numerical grades.
Thank you. We have a student who is a freshman who's going to be watching younger children during the day. Sounds like a good entrepreneurial babysitting type event. And they want to know, will the teachers be taking into account that older students will not be able to log on to a Zoom at specific times because they have other responsibilities for siblings or neighbors?
So that's an interesting question. So as a high school student, your number one priority needs to be school. I mean, that is your first priority. And so, teachers can be accommodating, but you are expected to follow the bell schedule as far as whether you're attending in person or attending from home. And so I would say that you need to look at other family supports and how to best accommodate the fact that your priority needs to be school.
Thank you so much. Dr. Green, this is our last building specific question. This is a remote learning child and they want to know, are they going to get good teachers too who are excited and want to work with them? Or are these kids on remote going to be seen as extra stressful duties and probably part of a burden or a problem to these teachers doing something new?
So one of the great things about the way that we are structuring our 100% remote learners is that they will have teachers that are 100% devoted to classes for remote learners. And so as a remote learning student, 100% remote learning student, you will be in a class, similar class size to if you were in person, but you will all be 100% remote learners. You will not be an extra burden, if you want to use that term, on teachers that are in in a hybrid class.
Great, thank you so much. So we have ended all of our specific questions. I'm going to open this up. If there's anyone on our panel who has something they would like to say, probably about safety or seeing the kids, or just a little message of hope and excitement. We're thinking about 15 to 30 seconds per panelist if you'd like to answer something. Mr. Jurizzi, you want to add anything?
I just think it's important to note that we are extremely excited to connect and reconnect with all of you. It is so important, and hopefully if you're not doing this, you start to do it. Take care of your mind and your body. Try to be physically active in some way, shape, or form each day. Even though we are distanced, try to ensure that you're still communicating and interacting with your family and your friends. It's so important to take care of your mind and body, and we are so excited to be able to see you again. And remember, we are all cadets and we're in this thing together.
Thank you so much. Dr. Miller, anything to add?
No, just reiterating, we're excited to have you come back so we can see you again. And everything that Mr. Jurizzi said is so true. We are in it together. We are truly all cadets.
Thank you. Mrs. Mayer, anything for the group?
Just wanted to add, Merton Williams, we're excited to see you. Please don't hesitate to check out the Merton Williams Family Google site. It'll give you information about what's happening specific to Merton, and we can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you. Ms. QC, anything for special ed or 504 or anything else from Learning Support Services?
Again, we look forward to working with you and providing the support, the amazing support that Hilton is known for.
Thank you. Ms. New?
We are just excited to see you. Probably so many kids are going to want to hug your teachers, and just remember, we can't do that, but we love air hugs. So you can give an air hug, you can give a wave, you can give a thumbs up or a peace sign, little heart. So we can't wait to see you all.
Thank you. Mr. Ashton.
On behalf of all the elementary principals, I want to say that we're very excited to have you back. And I know our teaching staff and other staff in the building are really excited to be greeting you and working with you either in person or remote. We're excited to have you back, and we're going to keep you safe, and we're going to do our best to make sure that you enjoy school in any way that you're receiving it. So welcome back. We miss you tons and can't wait to see you.
Thank you. Mrs. Palacios?
Unmute myself. Yeah, so I would just say, especially to anybody who's new or to the incoming freshmen, I'm new too. So we're all kind of doing this together. I will be just as lost in navigating the building as you will. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for all of us. And I would just say I'm super excited to be back in the school, back around kids, and I can't wait to meet all of you.
Thank you. Mr. Legault.
Just want to, I'll sound like a broken record here, but I just want to say that I'm involved in a lot of work and a lot of conversations behind the scenes. And I would just reiterate that that so many staff members that I work with are just so excited to be starting this school year again and seeing students come back, and myself included. And I'm looking forward to seeing many of you again. And also I'm looking forward to meeting all of our new entrants to the high school. So I can't wait.
Thank you. Mr. Ziobrowski?
Yes, on behalf of myself and the food service department, we are super excited to have the kids come back. We saw some of you during emergency meal service in the spring, and we are just, we're blessed to be able to come back in some form, and we can't wait to see you. We're going to keep you nice and safe coming through the food service line and delivering meals, so we will see you soon.
Do you think we might be able to see some of the food service workers dressed up in costumes again this fall?
Could be a possibility. Anything
Sounds
can happen.
great. I saw a minion one. Dr. Green, how about you?
And just in 2 short hours, we're going to be having a bunch of student and staff volunteers to simulate how we're going to do arrival and transitions and all those things, because we're anxiously excited to reopen. And whether you are coming back in person in the hybrid format or 100% remote learner, just excited to reconnect with you and support you.
Thank you. Mrs. Schneider?
Looking forward to coming back, and just a reminder to everybody that if you forgot to do your summer reading book, it's not too late. So dust it off, get that brain going a little bit, look at some of your schoolwork from last year, My 7-year-old and I sat down to some math workbooks, and it's important to kind of get those academic skills going. We'll see you soon.
Were there specific high school summer books or just any book?
Oh, a specific high school summer book. Yeah, you know, there's so many genres out there, Miss Abetel. I'm gonna let them pick.
All
But
right.
if they wanna share with me what they're reading, I would love to see that when they get back.
I was really just checking to make sure that my high school student didn't miss an assignment. Mrs. Burns.
I knew that's where you were going.
Oh yeah, we've been reading, but I don't know if we read the right books.
Reading is good.
Mrs. Burns.
I just want to echo everything else that the rest of the panel said, and we are ready to have the best Smart Restart ever for all our Hilton learners.
Thank you. Mr. D'Amico, new middle school principal, what do you got?
We're excited to see you. And I want to, if there are any incoming 7th graders out there, I want you to know that we get what you're feeling. We get that you want to be in the building and walk your schedule, and we have your back. We are not going to let you to the wolves on the first day. So we will make sure together we get you to where you need to be safely and help you feel comfortable. And I guarantee within a couple weeks, you're going to be a pro. So we have your back. It's going to be great. And remember, if you're taking care of yourself, by taking care of yourself and being smart that way, you're also taking care of your friends. And if we take care of ourselves, we can take care of each other. And this is a picture of a classroom. The first person to email me and tell me whose room that is gets...
Get up closer. Get closer to your camera. Okay.
Anybody out there who thinks they know whose room that is, email Mr. D'Amico and you'll get a prize. I don't know what it is yet. Maybe it'll just be a thank you.
Woo! We love prizes. All right, Mrs. Stillman.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to say to all you kids out there, if you've been like my kids and staying up super late, it's time to stop that and start going to bed a little bit earlier so it's not such a shock to your system when you come back in a few weeks. Other than that, we look forward to seeing everybody, whether it's via Zoom or in person, and let the learning begin.
Thank you so much. All right, so to all of our panelists, Miss New alluded to this earlier, that we can show love and support to our kids without physically touching them. So give them your best greeting or socially distant goodbye or hug or heart or handshake. Give them something to say goodbye to all our cadets. Thank you so much, guys. It's been great. Students, we're going to see you soon. Any specific questions, head to the website, talk to your parents, review the community panels, and get in touch with your school's assistant principal or principal directly. Have a great day, everybody.